All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be back.
Today we're going where few have dared to go before. Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but we are going deep into the world of online conspiracy theories.
Buckle up.
And not just any old conspiracy theories. We're talking about the ones that flourish in the darkest corners of the internet, the ones that make you question everything you thought you knew.
And the really interesting thing is, we're not getting this from some, curated documentary or anything. We're going full-on digital anthropology here.
Yeah, we're talking raw data, a completely unfiltered, multi-person text chat log.
Which, I gotta say, makes for some seriously entertaining reading.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, imagine a digital room full of people shouting opinions, bouncing between debating the existence of God and arguing about the best pizza toppings, all while peppering in some truly mind-blowing conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West of online discussion out there. And that chaotic environment actually makes it the perfect petri dish for conspiracy theories to take root and spread.
Right.
Remember, these theories often thrive in spaces where established norms and rules of engagement go out the window.
I can see that. It's like the internet becomes this giant, free-flowing think tank where anyone can walk in, throw out an idea, no matter how outlandish, and find someone else who nods along. Which I guess brings us to a big question. What exactly is a conspiracy theory?
That's a question worth unpacking.
Yeah.
I mean, at its core, a conspiracy theory is basically a belief that some powerful, shadowy group is working together, often in secret, to achieve some, nefarious goal.
Right, like that classic, the moon landing was faked one.
Exactly. Or the idea that vaccines cause autism.
Yeah.
These narratives have been around for decades. But why? Why are they so sticky? Why do they resonate so strongly with some people?
Especially when, let's be honest, they often seem so out there.
Well, think about it. When we feel like we lack control, when the world seems chaotic and unpredictable, our brains crave order and explanation, right?
So we latch onto anything that offers a simple explanation, even if that explanation might not be entirely accurate.
Exactly. Conspiracy theories, even if they seem outlandish, offer that. They offer a sense of order, a way to make sense of events that might otherwise feel random or inexplicable. And this is where things get really interesting, especially when you factor in social media. Because in our chat, we see this playing out in real time. Someone mentions a theory, and suddenly you've got multiple people chiming in with their own, twist on it, reinforcing that initial belief even if there's no real evidence.
It's like a game of telephone, but with potentially dangerous ideas.
Exactly. And that constant back and forth creates what we call an echo chamber.
Right, where people are primarily exposed to information that confirms their existing beliefs. So instead of seeking out different perspectives or critically evaluating the information, people get stuck in these feedback loops, becoming more and more convinced of their ideas, even if those ideas are based on, shaky ground.
It's like shouting into a cave and only hearing your own echo back. And this is where the digital divide comes into play, right? You see, not everyone has the same level of digital literacy.
Meaning
the ability to navigate the online world effectively, to evaluate sources critically, recognize misinformation when they see it.
So are you saying that someone who maybe isn't as familiar with the internet, with how to tell what's real and what's not, they might be more likely to believe a conspiracy theory they come across online?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. When you don't have the skills to effectively evaluate sources or recognize bias, or even just do a quick Google search to verify something, it's easy to get caught up in all the misinformation.
It's not always harmless, right? I mean, this can have real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely. This can influence everything from, healthcare decisions to political views. And to your point earlier about echo chambers, well, it's even worse when someone is surrounded by people who are constantly reinforcing those biases.
Yeah, it really is like a digital hall of mirrors. Makes it almost impossible to see clearly. But, thinking about our chat log, even with all this talk of misinformation and echo chambers, there was still a sense of, community there. People supporting each other, sharing stories, offering encouragement.
And that's a really important point to bring up. Because even with all the misinformation, all the potential downsides, these online communities are often fulfilling a very basic human need.
That need for connection, for belonging.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. In our increasingly digital world, traditional social structures are changing. People might not have those same strong ties to their local communities, religious groups, even their extended families like they once did.
So online communities, even ones built around, let's say, non-mainstream beliefs, can fill that void.
Exactly. They offer that sense of belonging, of shared identity. They can be incredibly powerful, especially for someone who feels like they don't fit in elsewhere.
I can definitely see that. It's
Yep.
like they're finding their tribe, a place where they feel heard, even if, what they're all agreeing on might seem a little out there to the rest of us.
And that's why it's so crucial to approach these communities with nuance,
Right.
with empathy. Because it's easy to just dismiss them as, crazy conspiracy theorists, but it's more complex than that.
So we need to remember that there are real people behind those usernames, real people who might just be looking for connection and a sense of purpose. And maybe, unfortunately, they're finding it in the wrong places.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? These online spaces offer that sense of belonging, that support, but they can also make people more susceptible to misinformation and, honestly, manipulation, especially those who maybe don't have the digital literacy skills to navigate it all effectively.
And that lack of access, that gap in digital literacy, it's like it creates this ripple effect, right?
Exactly. It impacts not just how people engage online, but also their real-life opportunities, their real-life outcomes.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle.
So where do we even begin to address all of this? I mean, we've got these complex forces at play, the allure of conspiracy theories, the human need for connection, the digital divide. It can feel pretty overwhelming.
It's definitely a lot to unpack, but I think part of the answer lies in remembering that behind every username, behind every avatar, behind every, seemingly outlandish comment, there's a human being.
Right, a human being with their own unique set of experiences, their own motivations, their own vulnerabilities. And maybe if we can start from a place of trying to understand those things, we can begin to bridge the divide.
Absolutely. And we also have to remember that none of us are immune to misinformation or bias. It doesn't matter your education level or your social status. We're all susceptible.
It's almost like, that saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. But in the digital age, it's more like a lot of information without the tools to navigate it. That's a recipe for chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why promoting digital literacy, that's crucial, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to give people the critical thinking skills to evaluate information, recognize bias.
Oh, absolutely. Being able to tell the difference between a credible source and, well, something you just saw on your friend's cousin's Facebook page.
Exactly. Think of it like, giving someone a map and a compass before you send them out into the wilderness, right?
You don't want them wandering around lost and potentially stumbling into dangerous territory.
Exactly. And just like learning how to use a map, developing digital literacy, it takes practice. It's about asking questions, being skeptical, especially of things that seem a little too good to be true, and always seeking out multiple perspectives.
And that last part is so important, right? Especially in this age of echo chambers and filter bubbles. It's easy to just surround yourself with people who agree with you, but that can give you a very, shall we say, skewed perspective on reality.
For sure. And, it was interesting going back to that chat log we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Even in that chaotic mix of opinions and theories, there were these moments where people would challenge each other, push back against misinformation and try to bring the conversation back to a place of reason.
So there's hope for us yet.
I think so. I think it shows that even within those echo chambers, there's still that desire for truth, for genuine understanding.
Yeah, and we can nurture that by, encouraging open inquiry, respectful dialogue, and what was that term you used earlier? Intellectual humility.
Yes, intellectual humility. And what that really boils down to is being willing to admit when we're wrong, to change our minds when presented with new evidence. It's about approaching conversations with a sense of curiosity rather than always needing to be right.
So it's not enough to just arm ourselves with facts and figures. It's also about cultivating a certain mindset, one that's open to learning, to evolving.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that truth is often complex, it's nuanced, it's rarely black and white.
And that sometimes the most important thing we can do is just listen. Really listen with an open mind.
I completely agree. You see, at its core, this isn't just about conspiracy theories, right? Or even just the online world. It's about how we as human beings navigate this increasingly complex, increasingly interconnected world.
Well said. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive into the world of conspiracy theories, online communities, and this crazy digital landscape, what's the key takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to walk away with today?
I think if there's one thing to remember, it's the importance of digital literacy. For ourselves, for future generations, you know? And it's not just about spotting fake news. It's about equipping ourselves with those critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah.
So we can all be more informed, more discerning citizens in this digital age.
Couldn't agree more. And, you know, something else we can't forget is the power of human connection. We all crave it, that feeling of belonging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So next time you're scrolling through that social media feed, remember this conversation, okay? Ask questions, challenge your own assumptions, be open to different viewpoints.
And remember, sometimes the most insightful conversations can come from the most unexpected places, even, you know, a slightly chaotic online chat log.
You got that right.
Until next time, everybody, stay curious.